Hello. I trust that all the speakers in the previous slots all made the jokes about you being here after the party yesterday, right? So I will not repeat them. So today I wanted to talk to you about a subject that is rarely at center of attention when we talk about web development. We will not talk about data visualization field as such in general. We will mostly talk about practical applications in web development. So just to make sense of the room, how many of you are front-end web developers? How many of you are other developers who touch front-end once in a while? Okay, that's a good mix. And any data scientists or BI professionals? Okay, and business people? There's no shame, I'm a bit of a business person myself. Okay, no, that's good. So that's basically a good audience for this. So data is eating the world. And I don't know if it's an absolute truth, but they say that every year we generate more data than in the previous whole history combined. Every year we generate more data than the whole previous history combined. So how do we make sense of all that data? So if your name is Neo or you're an accountant, then maybe you can look at the raw data and make sense out of it. It's always amazing to me how accountants tell me that, give me that 1,000 by 1,000 Excel spreadsheet. I don't need your charts. Just give me the numbers. I can make sense out of it. But for the rest of us, it's probably much easier to understand the data when we look at it visualized in some form of charts or graphs. So what is data visualization? So I like this definition by Andy Kirk. So data visualization is the representation and presentation of data to facilitate understanding. Short and clear. So a few of you who know me may be wondering why I'm talking about this subject, because in the previous years, I mostly did talks and other activities in the Windows development space and in the app marketing and monetization space. But actually 3 years ago here at NDC, I gave a talk in app advertising. So why data visualization? So I've started my career, and the whole first part of my career was in web development. And then about 2008, I switched to more of a native development and joined my friends at AM Charts to work on the .NET part of their charting control. So that's where I got interested in data visualization. Then I started a company called Duplex, which does advertising in Windows apps. As probably some of you know, the whole Windows Phone ecosystem and Windows in general didn't go as far as we hoped. So the company is doing okay, we're doing okay, but the market is sort of stagnant, so I got a little bored, and I started helping my friends at IM Charts again with some content and articles about data visualization. I've seen what awesome things are possible now that weren't possible 10 years ago, and got interested in data visualization again. So after this long introduction to a few people who know me, it's probably good to introduce myself to people who don't. So my name is Mendelevich. I'm come from Vilnius, Lithuania. Besides being CEO at Duplex and helping my friends at IM Charts, I'm also a Microsoft MVP in Windows development for at least 2 more weeks. Hopefully they will renew me again, but there is no guarantee in this space, so we'll see. And the agenda for today is pretty straightforward. So basically we will cover the past, the present, and the future of data visualization. And I like to separate these periods by the role data visualization played in the whole web development space. So in the past, we just used charts to illustrate the text or tables or whatever we had on the page, just as an image illustration. Now we can do more things. We can interact with charts. We can make some more sense of it. And I believe in the future, data visualization will take a more central part and be like the main. Charts and graphs will be the main part of any web app. So let's go quickly through the past, and let's start with a cheesy quote to remind you why it's important. So at first, we just used a fixed width font, add some access to your code, and voila, you have a bar chart. Awesome. Then we realized that we can take a single pixel GIF, stretch it to the dimensions we take, and get a pretty decent looking bar chart. Anyone done this before? Yeah. Great. So, and obviously the laziest way of them all, just create your chart in Excel, save it as an image, and include it in your page. Awesome. Your data visualization job is done. So later on, tools that we can characterize as server-side generators appeared, and like the signature piece of software in the 90s was a tool called Webalizer. Anyone heard about it? Used it? Yeah, great. So basically, this was a process that ran on your web server and analyzed your web server logs, and every night it would generate you a nice-looking report to see how your site does. Basically, the Google Analytics of the 90s. So for those of you who have never seen it, I will show you a quick demo. Apparently, it's still online. It has this beautiful website. I especially like this badge on it, which is probably relevant again with all the stuff that's going on around Microsoft's acquisition of GitHub. So maybe we will see more badges like this in the future. And so the reports look like this. So, doesn't look modern, but you still get all the charts, you get all the data, and pretty much everything that you get from Google Analytics, except for the privacy violation and stuff like that. Yeah, so then we started getting like these charting libraries that we could use in our backend code. So on the PHP side, we had JPGraph. On the .NET side, we had Dundas charts. Then Microsoft added ISP.NET chart control to the whole ISP.NET toolkit. And the final product is in this lineup of server-side tools was Google Charts, which now is a pretty modern client-side charting library. But in its first iteration, it was generating images on the server. But what was special about it is that it generated these images based on the data you pass to it via the HTTP request. So you basically send a long HTTP request to it, put it in the image tag on your site, and in that request, in the query string, you pass the data, and it returns an image. So that was pretty awesome at the time. But it still generated all the images on the server. And besides all of these images being static, non-interactive, and other things, the main drawback of all of these server-side generating tools was just that. It was in the name, that all the images were generated on the server. And for charts, this quite usually means that it's a computationally intense process to generate an image for every visitor to your site. So it was a very, very heavy load on the servers back then. So enough about the past. Let's talk about present. So looking at this slide, you may ask, Alan, is this slide deck like 7 years old or something? Flash and present, what's up with that? But the reality is that all the modern techniques that we use in web data visualization these days were started in mid-2000s in Flash. And basically, when the writing for Flash was on the wall, we've actually spent like several years trying to replicate what we were able to do in Flash in modern standard web technologies. So, and today we are doing it mostly with JavaScript and SVG. So you can also do it with Canvas, and this is mostly applicable to charts where performance is the main aspect that you care about. But for the most practical charts that you use in everyday, your dashboards and stuff like that, you would probably use SVG. So most of you know SVG as a vector graphics format, but how many of you know that it has the full-featured document object model that you can manipulate from JavaScript and do awesome things with it? So let's see how we do that. Yeah, so here we have empty, basically, HTML page. Is the font big enough? Yeah, so what this generates is this square, this rectangle that is shaded sky blue. So let's add something that looks like a simple bar chart to it. So we add a line that will represent our axis. So we do like the one end of it, and then we add the other end of it. And we just make it black. And then we add 1 bar. So the coordinates are obviously coordinates go from top to bottom, but we actually want to our bar go from bottom to top. So even here we would have to do some calculations if we want to draw some real data here. So what we have now is this like 1 bar on an axis. So I trust that you don't want to watch me type all the time. So let's add more bars like this. And now we have something that looks like some basic bar chart. So another awesome thing about SVG that you can actually do animations declaratively right in the SVG. So we have here 1 bar that we put an ID of demo bar on it, and then we can animate it, but we will change the value of it. But since, as I mentioned, the coordinates go from top to bottom and our bar goes from bottom to top, we actually need to change its height and also move the top left corner up at the same time. So if we add this, we get this basic animation. So cool stuff right in the declaratively, but the problem with this is that SVG animations are not supported in IE and Edge and will probably not be supported in the near future. Luckily, we have many other ways how we can do animations with SVG. But first, let's add, as I mentioned before, that we can add objects to it from JavaScript. So let's just add some basic circle to it. So we basically grab the SVG on our page, create a circle in the SVG namespace, and then set a bunch of attributes on it using the set attribute method, which you have to do, unfortunately, if you want to do SVG with vanilla.js. And then we insert it into our SVG. So unlike HTML, there is no concept of explicit z-index in SVG, so you basically have to put everything into the DOM in the order you want it to be rendered on an image. So if we want that circle to be behind bars, then we have to insert it behind bars. So we have this now. So let's try to animate it again, and we can do it with CSS animations like you would do with HTML. So again, just use the ID and do a basic animation. Let's move it off the screen a bit so it looks better. So it doesn't start in the middle of the screen and you have your circle moving across SVG. And finally, instead of animating it with SVG, let's animate it with JavaScript. Yeah, so what we're doing here, we are calling a move circle method every 10 milliseconds, and that method gets an X coordinate from the circle object and then adds 1 to it and then moves it back to the start and sets the attribute back. So yeah, pretty much the same, just without the nice easing that we had with CSS animation. So that's a basic demo of accessing SVG from JavaScript and doing it declaratively in HTML. So as you've seen, there is a lot of writing involved and a lot of magic strings if you want to do it just the vanilla JavaScript way. You have to call the set attribute all the time, and you have to pass that attribute as a string. So libraries to the rescue. There are several libraries that help you work with SVGs from JavaScript. One is called svg.js. The other is snap SVG. And what it would look like in those libraries. So this is a basic code that you would have to do to create an SVG and then place a rectangle in it with the vanilla JS, and with the SVG.js, it's basically 2 lines of code. So we could have done that with much less code if we use some library. But if we are doing charts, it's probably a good idea just to use some charting library. Luckily, there are hundreds and thousands of them. I don't know if thousands, but hundreds definitely. That can help you with this, ranging from simple open source to complex and commercial. So I will show you just one demo with an open source library called Chartist. So all you have to do is include the library in your code. This is data, so you can discount it. It's just data. And then you just call one line, pass that data. So you pass the where to put the chart, and you get this chart that looks like this. You get like axis labels for free, you get the grid for free, and most importantly, you get responsiveness for free. So much easier to do like this than try to reinvent the wheel and do it yourself. So I've shown you the basic demo, but if you want to see what awesome things can be done with JavaScript and SVG, look up this talk by Sarah Drasner. SVG can do that, and you will see a lot of awesome things. I will show you just one. So this is done with just SVG and JavaScript. So basically, if you look at the code, you have an SVG with a lot of passes in it that was created probably in Illustrator or something like this, and then you have the JavaScript code that animates it. And that's it. So what defines a modern JavaScript, modern data visualization library for the web? So most modern charts are interactive, so users can poke around them, explore the data, and do other things. They are also usually animated, so you as a developer or someone who made the charts can draw users' attention to what's important in the chart. And most importantly, they are all client-side now, so relieving the servers across the world from the heavy task of generating those damn images. So we use them in dashboards and reports like Google Analytics. We use them in infographics. So previously, if you wanted to create a nice infographic, you had to hire some agency or have some department, or only a big company could do that. But nowadays, with tools like Infogram and others, you can just go to a website and create an infographic right there, right in your browser, and all of this done with modern JavaScript charting technologies. So here are just a few examples of infographics that could be done that way. If you're really interested, or even remotely interested in data visualization, I highly recommend you watch this talk by David McCandless, who does a lot of infographics based on data, big data sets, and he distills them into basically one-page infographics that you can analyze and enjoy and have fun and learn something in the process. So let me show you just one. This is the map of the world with each country labeled as what it's best at. Anyone seen this before? So if we zoom into our region, for some reason it says that Norway is best at eating pizza. Does this make sense to you? Who likes pizza? Okay. So the previous version of this infographic, so this was updated in 2006. I had a book and I've seen the earlier one. In that book, Norway was best at drinking coffee. So that I can believe, at least judging by the low selection of tea you have here. So probably you like coffee. And my country, Lithuania, in the latest version is best for fastest Wi-Fi, which is much, 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 much better than what we had in the previous version. Anyone wants to guess? So what? No. It would be much better than what we had. So in the previous version, we were best at suicides. So, so I will take fastest Wi-Fi over suicides any day. So if you like beautiful stuff, just buy one of the books from David McCandless, or both of the books. You can have them as your coffee table book. Basically, there are no words in it except for the labels in the infographic. You have, on every page, you have an awesome infographic that you can put, on your table. And when you have a minute that you are bored, you just take the book and analyze one infographic, learn something, and see something beautiful. Or you can, get sucked in and spend countless hours analyzing the book and looking for awesome stuff in there. And it's great. So we also use visualization in more pragmatic things like our BI tools, like Power BI and Tableau. You can use it right in the service, or you can, in case of Power BI, you can embed into your app and use it that way. And obviously, there is a whole movement of people who are actually data visualization professionals, who have data visualization in their job title. So these people do exist. They have conferences, they have podcasts, and they can talk about it in way more detail than I can. And for most of them on the web, the library of choice is d3.js. So this is an awesome library that can do a lot of things, but it's mainly targeted at those people who want to do things that are not standard, who will never be satisfied with standard things. So if you want to do a simple thing, it's much more difficult to do with D3 than with many other charting libraries that are aimed at normal web developers who just want to do great data visualization in their admin dashboard or something like this. So let me show you a few of the 3 demos. So this is quite a simple one. It's basically a bar chart that flips from stacked to grouped. A little bit more elaborate. So this is a polar chart that was made to be a clock. So it shows current time and date as a chart. So you can do like chart, but not really chart. Or you can do totally random things with D3, which just demonstrate what library can do. So I think D3 will continue to lead on the bleeding edge of data visualization, and professionals will continue to use it. But I think the market will demand a lot from like regular web developers. When your like business person sees an awesome chart that your competitor made, they would want you to make something also. And if you are not a data visualization professional, you will probably look at some other libraries that democratize this, that make it easier for a normal developer to achieve awesome things. And I think in the future we will use visualizations for more things than just illustrating our data. We can tell awesome stories with data visualization, and this helps us deliver the message in more engaging way. And also it helps us transcend the language barrier. So if you can show a story with data visualization, you don't need to translate it into 50 languages or something like this. If you want to get inspired about storytelling with data visualization, I suggest you watch this TED Talk by Hans Rosling. So this talk is like more than 10 years old. I think it's like, yeah, it's from 2006. And back then, they had to create their custom software to do all this storytelling with data visualization. Luckily, it's quite within reach for normal web developers these days. So this is a modern version of their extreme poverty visualization. So what it shows is that in 1800, most of the population on the Earth lived in extreme poverty. And then we started living a bit better, and the chart was moving to the right. And it moves and moves. You can filter stuff here by region, by country. It would be probably better if it included some like major events like wars and stuff like that. And you can see that by now we are doing relatively okay. So 12% is still a big number, but definitely better than 85. So you can tell a story this way. Another interesting data visualization that tells a story is this chart made by Antti Lipponen from the Finnish Meteorological Institute. So he made a visualization of temperature changing on Earth over the last 100 years. So you can see here that the temperature is growing, and you've probably seen hundreds or maybe thousands of articles about climate change and global warming. And if you see another headline like this, again, you just skip it because you've seen it many times before. But with this visualization, he was able to get more than 10,000 retweets, and it was last year when everyone was already slightly bored of all these headlines about global warming. So, and to do that, he had to he did that with a custom Python script that rendered the visualization as a video. But there is no reason we cannot do this with modern web technologies these days. So basically, we can do it with JavaScript and SVG like this. And it would be interactive. You could select things in it. And it doesn't have to be a video in this day and age. Yeah. So another story. Anyone knows where this is? So this is Hawaii. And how many of you have heard about this fake missile alert that happened like a few months ago? Okay. How many of you know this website? No hands. Oh, one hand, two hands. Okay, so does anyone know what these two have in common? So let me show you. Oh, this, okay, we'll skip this for now. So this is a chart from Pornhub about their traffic from Hawaii on the day that missile alert went out. So as you can see here, the traffic fluctuates around average, so it goes a little higher, goes a little lower, and that continues throughout the day. Then Koreans apparently launch a rocket, and it flies, and someone pushes the button, and alert goes out, and the traffic to Pornhub plummets. And then the alert is canceled, and everything is back to normal. Everyone is happy. The life continues. So as you can see, we can tell this story with data visualization and make it engaging. And actually, Pornhub themselves, they posted this as an image, and they had to accommodate it with a lengthy article about it, which was also fascinating. But I can imagine that looking at it interactively is way more engaging. Okay, so when you see infographics, you often see different types of chart mixed into one graphic. But when you look at your average dashboard charts or any practical charts, you almost never see this. So why is that? So one thing is obviously that not every type of data is well suited to be expressed that way. And obviously, just because you can do it, you shouldn't do it. But you never see it because until now, it was quite difficult to do with standard data visualization libraries and almost impossible to do. But there is no reason why we can do it in 2008. So if that makes sense to you, if that makes your UI more engaging and for the user, why not do it? And we can also use data visualization elements as just a UI. So on the left side here, you see Google Analytics, where everything is done basically the old school way. You have your chart visualizing data, then you have controls to filter that data, or you click on some link to drill down into that data and stuff like that. On the right side, you see Power BI, where basically everything is data visualization. And you can click on that data visualization. You can select something in that data visualization and filter all the other charts on the page based on that. So you can use that to create your drill downs. You can filter data based on it, or you can just link out with that straight from visualization. So let's look at some more demos. So this looks basically like a normal map. It's interactive. You can walk around to see something. But when you click on a country, the country transforms to to a pie chart that shows you some stats about that country. And click on the other country, you see stats about that other country, and so on. And you never leave the visualization. Previously, we would probably do, even if you made the map, you would click on the map, then go to some other page. And if you want to see the other country, you would go back, click on another country, or you will create some combo box that filters countries or checkboxes. Why not just do it in the chart itself? So the one we have seen before, so over here, unlike in video, you can drill down and see only American countries, or you can go back and only see Europe, or you can select just a few countries and do it all in the chart without any other controls. So this is a tree map of car sales in the US in 2017. You can see that Ford is #1, and you can drill down and see what Ford models are most popular. And the last time I've shown this visualization to a bunch of geeks, the first question was, where's Tesla? So Tesla is still in other. You can go here and find Tesla and see sales by model. Right, and this is Power BI. So this is a report of traffic to an app. So the black bars are returning users, the green bars are new users, and this is months, so you can click on one of the bars, and then all the other charts on the page are filtered by returning users and that month, and you click back, and you click on the new users, and all the other charts are filtered by that. Another more conceptual example, so you have 2 pie charts here, and you can drag slices from one pie chart to another. Practical application still remains to be seen, but you can do this, and you can, I don't know, maybe sort items into buckets in some awesome way. Okay. So now we have a lot of IoT sensors. We have light bulbs. We have whatever sensors we have across our homes and in the world at large. So a lot of data comes from these services, and you need to handle it. And this is one of the, if you want to visualize the data, this is one of the places where canvas-based charts are probably more suitable than SVG-based charts, because on Canvas you just draw a pixel and forget about it. And if you want to do this with SVG, you get a lot of objects, and at some point your browser explodes. But another way to handle this is to aggregate historic data and show it as an aggregate. And you can do that as well. The same applies to machine learning and AI. And the additional aspect here is quite often when you apply some logic that you as a person don't understand what's going on. So you may get a result that is of a shape that you don't know how to display up front. So you can either try to guess, or you can give your viewers an option to change the chart type, or do other things with how the data is visualized to make it more usable to them. So this is like a fake real-time chart. This gets a data item once a second, so we can do all the nice things we can do with SVG charts here. It's beautiful, it moves, it rescales, etc. But imagine if we got thousands of data items every second, it would probably die pretty quickly. So here we have a chart with data that comes in every minute. So it looks okay if we look at it as 1 hour. Then when we get to 2 hours, it gets messier. And then we move out and it gets even messier. So why not just, at some point, we just flip and show it in 10 minutes intervals. And if we have more data, we can then go to an hour, to a week, to a month, and so on. As I mentioned, we don't always know what would be the best shape to represent the chart. Some users may want to look at it as a radial chart, someone to look at it as a normal bar chart. We can give them that option as well. And this is a quick insights feature of Power BI, which basically looks at your data and tries to guess what's interesting in it. Like 95% of it's total nonsense because it correlates whatever with whatever. But sometimes you get some interesting insights here. But as you can see, they are quite, every one of them is special. And I think they probably do a good job of finding the right chart to visualize that data. But if you don't have the time to, or the skills to find the best chart for every generated output from your machine learning or AI stuff, you can just give that option to your user to switch the chart type. Another like canonical example of bad charting situations is when you have outliers. So like the real chart looks like this. So you can see that the first bar is much bigger than the others, but if you want to compare the smaller bars, they are all very similar at this scale. So in print and in static images, many designers do this, but then data visualization professionals say no, you cannot do this because you skew the whole picture. If normal person looks at this picture, they think that US is less than 2 times bigger in whatever this is in China, but in reality it's like 10 times bigger, more than 10 times bigger. So, but with interactive charts, there is no reason why we cannot accommodate for both. We can give the real picture and we can give the picture that lets us look at all the other bars in this chart in an interesting fashion that lets us analyze what's going on in the whole rest of the chart. Obviously, the whole world moved mobile. When it comes to like professional or intense data visualization, many people still probably do it on their desktops or laptops, but still a lot of people do it on mobile. And your charts should be touch-friendly at a minimum. Then they may support multi-touch and stuff like that. And obviously, they should be responsive. And I've shown you the responsive example with Chartist, which is the base, which is the minimum that they should do, but there is more. So let's look at a few more demos. So this is a simple bar chart, but it supports multi-touch. You can, again, practical application. I don't know, maybe you can build an equalizer with it or something like this. And you can do multiple at a time. Or the one that I've shown you with dragging the slices, I actually did it on the touch screen. And it definitely should be supported in 2018. Another thing is responsiveness. So you can just, so normally when you show a pie chart or a donut chart, like in this case, you would place labels around the chart. This helps people understand what's going on here better. But if you go down, at some point, it gets messy. All the labels are taking all the space, and the chart itself is too small. So at this point, it's probably better to switch to a legend and show the chart separately. Accessibility is a big topic recently, and this is where using SVG shines, because it's a markup language where you can use all the tools you can use with HTML. You can use all the ARIA ARIA attributes, etc. Same things that you use with HTML. You can also help users by allowing them to change the color scheme of your chart. As some of the speakers joke that a colorblind person couldn't vote here because they have green papers and the red papers, and if you're green-red colorblind, how can you vote? So when you do data visualizations, think about that as well. You can do a high contrast theme, so you can just replace colors with patterns. That helps people who are colorblind. And many of you have probably dealt with GDPR or still deal with GDPR and related stuff. And that made a lot of people rethink what we can do with our data. How easily can we ship it to a third-party service like Power BI? Like in the past, you need to visualize something, you upload that data to Power BI, bam, you have awesome stuff. And then could we do this? Were we allowed to ship that data to a data center in US? I don't know. So now many people are concerned with this, and many move their like data visualization things back, and this will increase demand for data visualization skills among their in-house web developers. And obviously, finally, we cannot escape talking about VR, AR, MR, XR, whatever you want to call it. So, but the question is there anything special about charting in VR and MR? So Power BI have released their app for mixed reality, for HoloLens and stuff like that not too long ago, and there's basically nothing special in it when it concerns data visualization. The charts are just displayed on a plane like before, and this is probably a good thing. You know, a knee-jerk reaction maybe to think about something like this, when you have the charts flipping over in 3D, but the reality is that even in this demo, they had to make the bars very different so you can see what's going on here. In reality, all of these 3D charts are really hard to understand for people and read. So if you are making not a gimmick but a practical chart, you probably still want to make a 2D chart, and there is nothing really special about doing it in VR or MR. So that's about it. I highly recommend you look at all of these awesome resources about data visualization, stuff like that. And the next time you are doing a project that involves some charting and stuff, try to not forget, but not think about how you would do it 10 years ago and just replicate it with new technologies. Try to think about what new technologies enable you to do and how they enable you to get ahead of your competition and help your users. And take a look at what my friends at AM Charts do. I also have some of their stickers here if you want them. And I've also, this is totally off topic, I've also written a book called Conferences for Introverts. That is, as an NDC attendee, you can download it for free from that URL. And I have 3 physical copies here on a first come, first served basis if anyone wants them. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of NDC.